guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I read Black books. October was a pretty good reading month for me. I read 6 books across some of my favorite genres like paranormal romance, horror thriller, and dark fantasy. I read most of my horror TBR over the summer, but October was still the kind of spooky, intense, magical vibes I was hoping for this month. So let's talk about what I read in October and what I loved or maybe didn't love about each one. Let's get into it. This first one was a total surprise. Did anyone else get an influx of cringy publisher emails on Halloween? I did and sent them all straight to the trash bin. That was until I saw an email from Drea Anderson with the subject line, "Open for a new Halloween short." It was just what I needed and a perfect way to end my Halloween night while adding one last read to my October list. This one was a short story, around 50 pages, and it was exclusively sent to her newsletter subscribers. So if you're subscribed, you are in for a treat. Midnight Summons is a sensual and supernatural stories about Kamal, a god who rules the river that ferries souls from the living to the dead. He's powerful but also incredibly lonely. And one day Kamal catches a glimpse of Soleil, who is a handmaiden trapped in a temple, and he's immediately drawn to her. And to bring her to him, he offers her freedom in exchange for a single night together. What I loved about this story was how it mixed mythology and romance. The chemistry between Kamal and Soleil was instant and intense, and Drea really captures that magic pull between them. They only have hours together, which adds to this urgency and passion in their connection. For such a short story, it really hits, blending romance with the elements of fantasy and supernatural. If you're into fantasy romance with godlike beings and love stories that burn fast, this is definitely worth a read. Hopefully, it'll be available more widely in the future, but if you're interested, subscribing to Drea Anderson's newsletter is a great way to get access to gems like this. Overall, I give it 5 stars. Okay, moving on. Tinderbox by W.A. Simpson. This one was a surprise. I found it in the library one day and never heard of it. I had to do a little research on the author, and through her socials, I found her character art for this book, and I was completely satisfied with it. Most characters are black, so it was a win for me. So, about the story, it's an epic, dark fantasy that follows Isbeth, who returns home to find the witch who raised her unalived and her prized possession, the tinderbox, stolen. She vows to get revenge by infiltrating the suspect's organization, and the suspect is a common man who used the tinderbox to seize a throne, and he eventually becomes king. So Isbeth is determined to get revenge and reclaim what's hers, and along the way she meets Prince Bram, who's fighting to free his homeland, and together they are drawn into an underground kingdom filled with dark fae and ancient magic. They face betrayals, peril, and even a cranky magical talisman on their journey to prevent old magic from tearing apart the Riven Isles. So if you're a fan of myth and folklore and magic and dark fairy tales, this one's got everything you would want in a book with black characters. There's a bit of a love story and some spice, but it doesn't take away from the adventure. Overall, I give this book 4.5 stars. It started off really slow in the beginning. It's one of those fantasy books that just puts you into the story, no build up. There isn't too much world building detail, and you're able to catch on pretty quickly. And once you do, the story picks up and unfolds perfectly. Next is an audiobook that I listened to, and it is We Are Hunted by Tomi Oyemekindi. This YA thriller is a fast-paced survival story with a tropical twist. It follows 17-year-old Femi, who, along with his brother, is reluctantly dragged to a luxurious, secluded island resort by their father. The island is full of spectacular new species of plants and animals, but soon enough things take a dark turn when the animals suddenly become feral, and a peaceful family getaway spirals into chaos. Think Jurassic Park meets the island of Dr. Moreau. Femi finds himself in a desperate struggle to survive alongside his family and the other guests, all while wrestling his own guilt about the part he may have played in unleashing the island's horrors. Overall, I really liked it. I'm not really into YA anymore, but this one does a good job with sticking to the story and making it believable. There are some family emotional tensions between the main character and his father and his brother, but it falls in line with the story and doesn't take away from the main plot. It doesn't follow the typical YA outline. I give it 5 stars for being original and very entertaining. I don't really have much to say about it other than it was a good book. If you love thrillers with the survival vibe, a touch of horror, and a little humor, this one's packed with tension and will keep you guessing the whole way through. Next is my favorite read of the month, and that's An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. This one's a dark academia, dark fantasy story with a touch of horror set in a mysterious college where nothing is quite as it seems. The main character, Lennon, is going through a rough time in her life, and just when she's about to call it quits, she gets a mysterious phone call inviting her to take an entrance exam at this academy in Savannah, Georgia. She goes to this academy, takes the exam, and is accepted, But instead of finding a place for learning, she ends up uncovering twisted secrets about the school and her hidden powers. Alexis Henderson does an amazing job of blending eerie gothic elements with fantasy in a way that just pulls you in. I love how immersive this book was. It's filled with tension, dark twists, and characters that are hard to pin down. Overall, I rated it 5 stars. I couldn't find a thing wrong with this book. I'll admit I was a little skeptical after House of Hunger kind of let me down, but this book surprised me. I love how Alexis Henderson excels at making her stories dark and gloomy. It's like her thing now, and she's damn good at it. And I also like that she is leaning more into adult fiction. Year of the Witching, I think, was a YA novel, and it was a great debut, but I love that she's really showing her talent as an adult fiction writer, too. This book draws you in immediately and is paced very well. There's just enough detail, but no filler subplots. The story just comes together. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I didn't want it to end, but it ended with a satisfying resolution. No cliffhanger, no promise of a series, but I wouldn't mind if it did. If you're into dark academia with the horror twist, this one is a must read. So those were my top picks from October. Now let's get into the reads that I didn't like. And it's a shame because I was really looking forward to these witchy romance books. Case of the Hex by Simone Sims. This book has a blend of romance, mystery, and a touch of the supernatural that pulled me right in. The story centers on Andy, who's trying to keep her life in order while running her ancestral home turned bed and breakfast with her sister. Things get interesting when Cass Henderson, a former hookup and music journalist, arrives for a month-long stay. Their chemistry is intense, but Andy's determined to prove she's not the same person she was 3 years ago. Cass, on the other hand, isn't just there for a getaway. He's working on a new book, and the case he's chasing is tied to Andy's family history, which brings an extra layer of intrigue to the story. I enjoyed a lot about this book. The premise is solid, and the setting, this old, almost haunted bed and breakfast on a small island off the coast of Texas, adds to the story's vibe. Andy and Kaz's tension and shared history make for some really compelling scenes, but unfortunately, this story felt disjointed. It was all over the place, and the love scenes were more fades of black than fully fleshed out, which was disappointing, especially given the buildup and the overall plot of the story. If you're looking for a romance with a little mystery and ghostly family secrets, Case of the Hex is enjoyable. Overall, I give it 3 stars. It was a good story, it just needs a little bit of work. Deja Brew by Celestine Martins was one I had really high hopes for, especially since it was on my list for quite a while. This book had a fun setup. It follows a witch named Serena who's an ex-celebrity chef whose life is kind of falling apart. Her magic's disappeared and she lost a big job opportunity and she embarrasses herself at the town's Halloween party. So she makes this desperate midnight wish for a do-over and the next morning she wakes up and it's October 1st again. She's stuck in this magical time loop with a shot at getting her life back on track. Then there's Gus, a former TV reality star who's trying to rebuild his life too. He's hiding out in a small town, working on himself and keeping his magic in check. When he runs into Serena, sparks fly. He's been crushing on her and she needs his help to get her powers back. They make a deal where she'll help him decipher a mysterious cookbook he found and he'll help her with her magic. It sounds cute, but here's the thing this book was so dry and predictable. The story felt like it was dragging and it had way too much filler. Honestly, it could have been wrapped up in about 100 pages. And for a romance that promised a lot of spice, it just didn't connect. The chemistry felt flat, the characters didn't really stand out, and the so called explicit scenes just felt forced, and they missed the mark for me. After all the wait, I expected that warm, fuzzy feeling I got when I read book one of this series, but I just got typical watered down romance. I give it 1 star. This book was just not it for me. So those are my October reads. I would love to hear your opinions. Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching.